Well, welcome back to Unpopular Opinions, where today we are going to be covering the character of Starfire. When I was looking at the list of characters we've already done, I was realizing that there was a pattern for a little while where we almost did a character, then a Teen Titan character, a character, Teen Titan character, and so on. And at this point, we've pretty much got all the mainstream popular Titans covered, and the only one we haven't done is Starfire, so I thought it was appropriate to do. Just like any other Teen Titan character outside of Robin, I think a lot of the comments in this community post really encapsulates the idea. A lot of these characters are forgotten when they're not part of the Titans. A lot of them don't have much room for growth on their own, and that of course is going to bring in a lot of hot takes for characters like that. So with that being said, let's get into some of your comments and see what you had to say. The first one we're starting off with here is Nick Longo. She's completely underutilized. I think in the same way that Dick has been stepping to lead the league in recent comics, she should also take a similar role. To general audiences, she's likely the second most recognizable female hero in DC, behind only Wonder Woman, and she could 100% hold her own in a new Trinity, with Nightwing and John Kent, or whoever else you want to throw into the mix. Precisely, it's the underutilization of these characters, and she is someone who suffers extremely from it. Just like I've said before in the other Unpopular Opinion videos on other Titans, they all suffer from their own underutilization. A lot of these characters, including Starfire, only seems to get used in Teen Titans related books, which of course makes sense because she's part of the team. But outside of that, it seems to maybe be only here and there in either Nightwing comic books or something related to the Justice League. Allowing her to grow up and mature from the Titans would be really important for her character, and for us to see her as a character who can take on heavier responsibilities. I think her being a new face of the DC universe would be very interesting, especially if you did have someone like Nightwing being Batman and John Kent, or maybe even Connor Kent, because personally I like Connor, but him as the Superman and then her as the Wonder Woman. And you could also take into consideration that when you look at the Trinity, Batman is human, and even though Wonder Woman is not technically human, she is derived from Earth, whereas Superman is the alien. You could have that same type of feeling here with the new Trinity, where Nightwing and John or Connor are from Earth, and Starfire is the alien in this situation, bringing her own culture and expertise to this new Trinity. Mr. Man. She's treated only as a love interest character. Yeah, I think that is a big problem, and I do think that there are a lot of characters that do fall into this category. A lot of the comments I saw here, and even some comments that I can remember seeing on Nightwing's Unpopular Opinions video months ago, a lot of the conversation only surrounding her character on who's better suited for Nightwing. Nightwing's better with Oracle. Nightwing's better with Starfire. And she has unfortunately been regulated to that type of character, even though she's capable of so much more, and there's so much potential waiting to be used. There is absolutely no problem giving these characters relationships, and of course making those relationships very important. There's no problem with making Nightwing and Starfire be the main couple if that's how you like it. However, she needs more than that. She needs to progress. And I just gotta throw this out here. I think Nightwing is a little scummy when it comes to relationships. He doesn't usually treat his relationships with that much grace, and even though I do have a soft spot for a Nightwing Starfire relationship, maybe it's time for the character to let go of it, and Starfire needs to go out, try something new, and do her own thing. Leahcimmichael, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but you say she should be a League member. Titans hold her back. She should be a cosmic hero. Reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow made me wish Starfire got something similar. A hero traveling the galaxy, meeting new faces and obstacles. When it comes to being a Justice League member, it all falls back onto what I say about the Cyborg situation. That was their way of trying to take a lower rate character, building him up, and making him as popular as some of these other bigger name Justice League heroes. I don't think it necessarily worked, but I think it was certainly an admirable attempt and 100% it did do something for the Cyborg name. More people now know or are informative of who Cyborg is, even if you don't really like him. I think going into the Justice League and being a member of the main seven with the other big players, Raven definitely has an argument for it, but so does Starfire, because I think her power set is useful. I think the fact that her being an alien is useful, and I also think her personality could be well utilized within a Justice League. It's very interesting relating Starfire as a character to something like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, because I do almost wonder if you kind of just literally did a character swap, maybe kept the story a little similar, maybe change it in certain ways, but you threw Starfire within that book. I wonder if it could still work, because it does feel something very reminiscent that Starfire would have a story about. Or at the very least, the atmosphere, the tome, the realm of what that comic book is. Being a planetary, galactic, universal setting would be something that would be right up her alley. But sometimes I do wonder if the biggest situation is that there are so many characters within the roster of DC, and there are just simply, truthfully, factually characters who are more popular than others, that maybe it would not work with Starfire because perhaps they wouldn't get the sales or the interest that they would want. With Supergirl, at least there are a certain amount of people who are going to like it. But there's no way to know unless you try. Laurel Alexander. It'd be interesting if she was a nerd for other cultures, actively pursuing knowledge about history, geography, ecology, and a bit of science and theology in her leisure time. For all factors, she's an immigrant, so it would make sense for her to know about Earth as much as possible. Maybe even more than an Earthling knows. That's definitely an interesting concept to play around with for the character, and I think that could open up a branch of new opportunities and doors that she could take. She, just like many other DC characters, is an alien who's coming to Earth and choosing to adopt our culture, to adopt our nature, to adopt this place as her new home. And she is a lot smarter than a lot of people give her credit for, but I don't really think too many people look back at her original origin from Marv Wolfman, where she is portrayed to be quite a smart character, and I do think that would be something that would be right up her alley and something she would want to do and take her time to understand what Earth is all about. The real Bully Maguire. She's one of the most powerful DC characters and is on par with Superman and stronger than Captain Marvel from Marvel. So maybe there would be some Marvel fans or people here who are very familiar with Captain Marvel and Marvel who would beg to disagree. However, I can't really say from that standpoint because I don't know too much of what Captain Marvel has to offer. However, I do know that Tamaranians have been described to be on the strength and durability level of Kryptonians, and they also do get stronger under a yellow sun. Does that automatically make her one of the most powerful DC characters? I don't know where you would throw her in a top 10, top 20, top 30, but yes, I do have to say that would make her extremely powerful. And I also don't think she would beat Superman, but I do think she could go up against Superman and hold her own, at least for a little while. That is also why I think her time on the Teen Titans can't last forever. Because say what you want about her mentality, personality, intelligence, but power-based alone, it should project her from getting out of the Teen Titans once she comes of age. Tease with ease. At this point, she should be the queen of Tamaran. That way we can see her in a place that we haven't seen her in before. This would really benefit her character and give her another story arc that doesn't include Blackfire trying to conquer Earth. Also, she shouldn't be with Nightwing since all she's really known as is his love interest. Plus, there were many instances in comics where he treated her like crap and cheated on her. Quickly commenting on the Nightwing situation here, yeah, I personally do like them as a couple, and if I were to make my own stories, I would probably write it in a way where that they could get around their relationship struggles. However, if you do look at some older comic books, especially in the modern age before 2011, there are a lot of instances where, yes, he has cheated on Starfire or has simply not really treated Barbara or Starfire all that well. So he hasn't had the best track record when it comes to relationships. But yeah, perhaps there needs to be a story with Starfire going back home, living up to a particular legacy. Maybe it's a destiny she needs to live out. Realistically, from me personally, I can't give you any big Starfire comic books or stories. If there are any, the only ones I can think of are things to do with Blackfire, no one else. And even though, as a lot of people are saying here, she's underused, and honestly, the Titans are underused outside of Robin. Even those characters over time have had solid stories, even simply been utilized in stories to a high degree. Raven has hers, Cyborg has his, even Beast Boy has a couple of his own. But Starfire, I can't really think of too many. But someone who is as powerful as she is, comes from a super powerful homeworld in Tamarin, and comes from royalty, I think she should definitely have a couple of really big stories at this point, and at the very least, stories that stick. Stories that people can sit here and say, oh, I remember that one. Mercury. She is often mischaracterized in most of her adaptations. Titans, the 2003 Teen Titans show, etc. She's nothing like her 1980s counterpart. Corey is much smarter and more powerful than these adaptations paint her out to be. She needs more leadership opportunities aside from being in the Titans. Finally, she should have curly, long hair, have plain green eyes, and be ridiculously tall. She needs a better costume. So I've personally never had a problem with her costume at all, or how she looks with the curly, straight hair, long hair, of course, green eyes. That's never been really a problem for me. However, her mischaracterized adaptations, especially if you want to compare it from the 1980s counterpart, I do think a big reason in why they made her the way they did in some of these shows, take for example Teen Titans back in 2003. I think the reasoning for that characterization of her is to simply get more kids involved into the show and to get kids to like every one of the characters, and her personality in that show got kids to like her. Teen Titans Go is simply a show that treats all those characters like children, and just simply the gag of it all, it's not for our demographic. Maybe if you are someone my age who's 27, it is for a much younger demographic, so they can sit down, watch the show, and laugh at it. Her Titans, the live action show adaptation, is not my favorite. I find the character to be quite boring in that show. There's not too much flavor or spice to that version of the character. But that's simply how I see it from what I would say is her most popular counterpart outside of comic books, which would be the 2003 cartoon. Angels. Her and Superman would be a good couple. Okay, first of all, the biggest thing that would have to happen here is Starfire would need to be aged up. Whereas I don't know if I would like Superman and Starfire together, I definitely think it is an interesting pairing, especially with both of them maybe being able to relate on certain things, being from Tamarin and Krypton. A lot of you guys here know I'm not a fan of Superman and Lois Lane. I don't like the relationship, and frankly, I'm not a fan of Lois Lane at all. I always thought that Superman should probably be with someone who is alien, and this would be quite interesting. The biggest thing about this is that in a world where Superman and Starfire are together, we can't have Starfire being a Teen Titan. At the very least though, if you did want her with a Kryptonian or someone like Superman, you could always settle for maybe a Superboy like Connor. Okay, for my unpopular opinion, I'm actually going to feature a comment that somewhat talks about what I'm going to talk about. This comes from Sam Oliver, who says, Starfire is a character full of emotion. emotions. Imagine her as a member of one of the Lantern Corps. So my hot take, if you will, is that I actually believe Starfire's storyline and a lot of her future stories to come is connected to a lot of the Lantern Corps. Because yes, I do think it would be interesting if we did see Starfire utilizing particular rings. This is not to take away any of her time or her relationships that she will have with the Titans or maybe even the Justice League, but I don't think that means we just need to box her down to dealings on Earth. I think she should be a cosmic hero, like someone even mentioned earlier in the comments, and I think she should have storylines with so many other characters around the universe of DC. Her relationships and her storyline could bring her down paths where she becomes a very strong friend and ally to all the Lantern Corps. All the good ones or even neutral ones at the very least. Green, Blue, Sapphire. I think she could even create a relationship with the Guardians of the Universe, which would be really interesting. She could even become a very well-hated enemy to the Sinestro Corps or the Red Lantern Corps. I also think she is someone who is so dominant in every single one of her emotions that maybe there is a storyline that one day she is the one real wielder of the White Lantern ring. But regardless of what the story entails for her, I always thought that her connection to the emotional spectrum and all the characters that come with it should be just as deep as her connection with characters in the Teen Titans or even the Justice League. So there you have it, guys, some unpopular opinions and hot takes on the character of Starfire. So as per usual, leave in the comments below other opinions if you did not get the chance to do so on the actual community post. Also leave behind some characters that you would want me to make hot take videos for, and I will add them to the growing list. But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon. I'm the